Good morning, folks, and here's a wonderful little story from Bounding into Comics about the development, or at least the release of The Last of Us Part 2. And part of the story comes from one of the voice actors, Troy Baker, who plays Joel, and he says, keep an open mind. Now, why would an actor or actress from a game or movie ask you to be open-minded about the thing that's coming out? Because typically most people are open-minded. It's like, yeah, what's the story about what's going on? So what this tells me is immediately this is going to be a different experience than the first game, which is not unheard of. Plenty of sequels, like the Mass Effect series, have different experiences than the first game. That's normal. But here we're speaking specifically about the narrative. As you can see, this is a very high definition looking cutscene or a character from a game. So I haven't played the first game. I know a little bit about it. I know friends who've loved it and what have you. So there's plenty of themes and plenty of ideas of a post-apocalyptic outbreak and how you survive in this weird world. And we've seen some trailers of, I believe, what's her name? Whose name doesn't... Ellie, there she is. Who she's pregnant or she's doing all the survival things that Joel taught her. So there's lots of things to be expecting of. The problem is, we've seen this with The Last Jedi where we had all these expectations and none of them were met. So for an actor to come out and publicly say, hey, I want people to go in open-minded to this story and allow Joel and Ellie to tell their story, not the story that people think that they want to be told. If people go in open-minded to this thing, that's a bit telling to me because the story should be obvious. Unless there was not a proper setup from episode 1 or part 1, then what exactly is going to happen? Is it going to turn into a romance story? Is it going to turn into a zombie survival horror story? Are you doing some sort of resource management on a macro level? Like, what are you doing that we have to be open-minded now? Of course we're open-minded. We like the stuff. We want more of it. Give us more of the stuff we like. That's what we expect. It's... you play with themes, play with new characters, fine. We don't care. Just give us something that we're used to. It's that simple. He added, I think they'll have a completely different experience than if they go in closed-minded. Okay, so this is not good. I know it sounds pretty innocuous and just, hey, have a good time. No one should be telling us what to think about something and say, oh, well, this is the right perspective to have. You're watching movies wrong. You're playing games wrong. You're thinking of these characters wrong, unless they have a really good argument as to like, oh, this is a Lynch movie or this is a Hideo Kojima game or whatever. You have to think of it like that because there's so much crazy crap in it that if you don't, you're missing the point. I don't think The Last of Us, the first game, from what I saw and heard about, was this confusing masterpiece that has all these layers and you're missing the point, this and that. I don't think so. So this is a little dangerous for this to be popping up now. At first I was very diligent in taking notes, and I was like, yes, all that's great. I just want to make sure of. But by the end of it, I was silent. Like I was sat at the feet of the greatest storyteller. It was an amazing story. Okay, so this can go either way. This is like, he's so blown away by the changes, and the storytelling is so clear and makes the context and meaning found within that context so high that it makes sense, which is a good thing. We want context. We want things to have meaning, especially when you have complicated themes and complicated ideas. What we don't want is a character like Luke Skywalker 20, 30 years later who we can't relate to. We don't understand why he's going through these actions and why he's feeling all these feelings. It doesn't make sense to us. We want what makes sense. So, I don't know, Joel could be discovered to be homosexual. He could be a drunken, crazy man. It doesn't matter what the plot twist is or the character change is. It has to make sense. So saying this does not look good, and this is the only hope I have of this ever being good. But again, we've been disappointed so many times before by games or movies. So not the best news reporting on that. However, Baker concluded his comments by saying, I don't know whether people are going to like it or they're going to hate it. But they definitely will not be ambivalent about it. Okay, now this just kind of seals the deal. You're going to have a very controversial opinion of whatever politics, whatever left-leaning versus right-leaning ideology, and it's just going to piss people off. That's how it comes across. Now, I'm not saying there isn't politics in a post-apocalyptic survival scenario. I think that's a good thing. I think you need that extra layer of control and people struggling and not sure of things. So having that extra layer is great, but it depends all on how it's done. So you're not sure. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. And the next part of this post is about a leak or leaks from, I think, 4chan. I don't really trust 4chan too much for leaks. I think Reddit's a bit more reputable, but you never know with 4chan. A new character named Dina will become involved in a romantic relationship. Fine. Again, no big deal. By the end of Act 1, while Ellie and Dina are solidifying the relationship, a religious sect called the Seraphites will interrupt them and kill Dina. Okay. So we have this uber religious extremist group, which is understandable considering it's the state of the world. Angels cleansing the wasteland, they think of themselves, and they specifically target Dina because the Seraphites don't like gays because it's a sin. All right. Interesting. Now, I don't know the exact scenario of the religious groups or whatever there was in the first game, and I don't know how how women are treated, whether there's a lax on civil liberties or that sort of thing. But I would imagine that in a survival post-apocalyptic world, women are kind of seen as super important. They can still have children. Now, I don't know if because of the virus or whatever pandemic was happening in the world of The Last of Us, the first game, that women were sterile or sterilized or what have you. I don't know. But if not, then women are still pretty important. So you need to have women to make children. That's kind of a given. Any survival post-apocalyptic world needs women. They're basically gold as far as commodities go. There's food and water, and then there's women. You need those three things to keep life going. The Seraphites. So what I'm trying to say is that these guys, these Seraphites, might have reasons for thinking that homosexuality is bad. It's like you're using all these resources or time or whatever, feelings, whatever you want to call that, when you have a drastic need to keep people alive and keep families going and keep civilization and society going. The Seraphites are also known as white men and shaven heads or white women. Okay. The leaker details that the people who do leave the group tend to be minorities. Okay, so it sounds like this might be the beginnings of what Troy Baker might be referring to. There's going to be white supremacists, and they're all religious fundamentalists, and they're very strict on how to behave in a survival scenario, which sounds logical, but it depends. I mean, it all depends on the context. They could be seen as raving lunatics with axes, which we kind of see in this photo. We don't know yet. Aside from these leaks, they also detailed that Baker's character Joel is killed off. Okay, so that's all. Again, this is nothing wrong with that. Killing off protagonists or side characters, what have you. Death is good. You're going to have a survival story, killing, having main characters die off. That's good. Again, it's all on how it's done. It could be very dramatic. It could be very lame. It could be a sacrificial lamb scenario. It could have all sorts of scenarios. That this could be good or bad. Now we're talking about the real world pandemic, where the game got delayed. This game should have come out years ago. I don't know what's been taking so long, and I haven't been following it, but I'm quite sure this should have come out a while back. So there was a statement posted on Twitter. I'm not going to go into that. It's just they're done the game. They're just bug breaking or bug squashing stage. So they're essentially finished. And I'm sure, like everyone else, productivity has plummeted. So they would have probably been done this month, but we have to wait even longer. Well, there hasn't been a final decision yet. Now we're just reacting to everything. It's a different retail chain, whether we could get physical copies to people, what is the internet infrastructure, where to support it in all countries. Yeah, so making a digital copy for download is an option, of course, but they want to do it all at once, which is fair. You want everyone to have access at the same time. The problem is you can't get as much access to physical brick and mortar stores to buy your game, unless these stores actually mail you stuff, which would be interesting. But I don't know what like GameStop and all those other still existing physical copy stores are out there to do that sort of service. This is a worldwide game that people in every country are waiting for, and we want to make sure we're fair. Okay, so this is an understandable thing. You don't want to release in stages, like the first month or the first week, but because of what's happening in the world, you're not sure. So it's totally understandable, and you don't just want to give it to people on digital download because, again, it wouldn't be fair. Right now, we're looking at all sorts of different options. What's the best way to get to all of our fans as soon as possible? But that's going to take time for us to shift and figure things out. And also see where the world's at. Things are changing from day to day. This is true. So we have all sorts of wonderful news in this story, from real-world logistics of shipping the game to delays of the game as a result of the virus, to content which is potential. Like usually, these skinhead kind of characters. Lots of potential for bad storytelling, political discourse, or political projecting, as we like to say. But hey, you know what? All news is good news. So good to hear that we're finally getting some information on The Last of Us 2. It's not a big thing for me, but it does look to be another, shall we say, put it nicely, a rambunctious release for this highly anticipated game. And I hope it meets everyone's expectations, despite what Troy Baker is warning us about. Thanks for listening, guys. Have yourself a great day.